each year they put out over 200 enhancements, and this webinar would have to be much, much longer if we're going to go through each and every one. So kind of think of this as kind of a good set of highlights from the 2016 release. We're going to kind of break it up into different sections, and as we move through each section, I'm just going to kind of review the highlights of each of those sections. So I think the first area we really want to take a look at in our presentation here is on the user interface. So you'll notice that in the new version of SolidWorks, there's going to be quite a few user interface changes. Nothing as dramatic as when we went from 2007 to 2008, but still quite a bit of enhancement there. But before I do that, I just kind of want to talk about like what's come before with the user interface and what to kind of expect in 2016. As an example, a few releases back, they introduced context toolbars. Depending on if you pick a face or an edge, these quick access toolbars would appear right next to your cursor, and you could also fully customize these to add commands to them. Okay, so you'll see in 2016 how they've kind of expanded upon this concept. Also, in 2015, last year's release, they showed a graphical way of showing the parent relationships within your feature manager design tree. If you just floated over a feature, it would show you all the parent features that were associated with it with these little arrows. Now, who can forget the triad? I call this the triad and hula hoops. This has assisted us for various environments for years, depending on if you're sectioning or if you're creating exploded views. The triad was really helpful. So 2016 has improved upon that, and you're going to see that in just a bit. Also, the property manager. I forget when it was probably over 10 years ago that they got rid of a lot of the dialog boxes in SolidWorks and integrated it into a property manager that would actually go over your feature manager tree whenever you were in the middle of a command. So you're also going to see in 2016's user interface how they've improved upon that as well. So without further ado, let me just switch over to good old SolidWorks. We take a look at the new user interface in 2016. Right from the very beginning, you're going to notice that there's nothing wrong with your screens. They've somewhat desaturated the user interface. So if you're not seeing a lot of color on the screen right now, that's because that's intentional. They did this because they wanted to make sure the icons were crisp and clear for a wider variety of individuals, especially those that are chromatically deficient. That's the politically correct way of saying people that are colorblind. On top of that, you'll also notice if you go into your customized area that in the customized dialog box, you have multiple sizes, and these icons are now vector-based, so they scale and maintain their crispness even at very, very high resolutions. So for those of you who are lucky enough to have those new 3K and 4K monitors, you will still have the great image fidelity of the icons that you see here. Also, they've included this new little checkbox here, Lock Command Manager and Toolbars. For those of you who don't know what this does, basically, in older versions of SolidWorks, if you happen to click and drag this toolbar, or if you accidentally double-clicked on it, it would undock the command manager. But as you can see now, it just gives me a friendly message saying that I can't undock it. The only way you can undock the command manager now is to just drag it from the tabs. Okay? And if you want to bring it back, you can just float it back into place. But if you don't even want that to happen, again, just go into your Customize area and choose the Lock Toolbars, and you won't be even able to undock that item. Right? Now, as we were mentioning before, SolidWorks has the ability to bring these quick access toolbars. Depending if I pick on a face or I pick on an edge, you'll get some different commands. But they wanted to expand upon this using something called Breadcrumbs that you see up here on the upper left. Basically, let me go ahead and select this face right here. And what you're going to see in the breadcrumb is the face, the feature that it's a part of, the body that that's a part of, the part that's a part of, and the assembly that that's a part of. And here at the part level, you can see all the mates that were used to mate that part into place. And at the feature level, you can actually see all the sketches that were used to access, to create that feature. So technically, even if you don't have the feature manager design tree, you can use the breadcrumbs to be able to gain access to all the relevant feature, sketch, and mate information of whatever you're selecting. Now, I know what you're thinking. If I'm clicking over here, why do I have to go all the way up here in the upper left just to gain access to those breadcrumbs? Well, fortunately, in SolidWorks 2016, they've included a new keyboard shortcut. So if you click on a face over here and then you hit the D key, D as in David, you notice the breadcrumb will appear right next to your toolbar, or sorry, your cursor. And so you can gain access to all the relevant items that are in our item here. For instance, maybe I want to come in and I want to modify the feature, and especially maybe some of the dimensions that are on this sketch here. Let me click on that sketch and choose to edit that sketch. Notice this immediately took me into that sketch, and I'm just going to modify this dimension. Maybe I want to make it a little bit taller. I modified this dimension, and what I'd like to do now is exit out of my sketch. Well, the D key can also be used to exit out of your sketch, and if you're editing a part, you can use it to exit out of your part as well. So it gives you that confirmation checkbox and cancel X right next to your cursor for all those different environments. Let's take a closer look at this part. Let me show you a couple of other user interface enhancements that are available in 2016. When you float over a feature, besides showing you the parent features, it will also show you the child features as well graphically. In the past, you would have to right-click, go to Parent-Child, bring up the Parent-Child Relationships dialog box, and access it this way. Now this can all be done graphically. Now if you don't like your feature manager tree looking like a 4th of July parade, you can always go to the very top of your feature manager tree and deactivate the relationships you want to see, or you don't want to see. Okay. Finally, I'll leave you with this. Let's say I'm going to come in here and I want to modify some selections that I made on some fillets here. If I go ahead and edit this feature, you'll see a list of all the fillets that were used on this part. Now, new in SolidWorks 2016, they made the behavior of the property manager more consistent with Windows dialog boxes. So the tab, the shift tab, the arrows, the space bar all work as they do in other Windows dialog boxes. So if I hit tab here, for instance, you'll notice I'll toggle right through my list. Hit shift tab, I'll reverse my direction. So for those of you who are really, really good using your keyboard to navigate through Windows interfaces, the property manager has been updated for you. Included with this, you'll see that we have an auto-expanding selection area now. So as I select more items on my list here, you'll notice that the selection dialog box will actually get larger. You can make it go back to old school just by grabbing, dragging, and dropping the size of the box, and you can scroll through it like you normally did in the past. If you want it to become automatic again, you can either right-click, auto size, or just double-click on this little pinball right here in order to expand automatically. Okay? So let's just go ahead and review that real quick. So you just saw me go through and show you some intuitive ways of selecting relevant features, mates, and sketches to a selection. Right, and that's done through breadcrumbs. I also showed you that we can now visually identify child relationships within the feature manager tree. Oh, I did forget to show this. There is the new triad feature in SolidWorks. It's no longer multicolored, it's more monochromatic, and it's a lot easier to grab the selections that you want within your system. Okay. Finally, I also showed you the expandable selection sets, and navigating through the property manager is easier than ever. Now, the reason I have this PowerPoint is to remind me if I forgot anything during my presentation. So let me just go back into SolidWorks over here and again show you that the triad has been updated. In this case, when I come in, I can come in and use my little hula hoops to move my little section view around. It's a lot easier to interpret how to move my plane. In the past, we'd also have a vertical arrow and a horizontal arrow, which really didn't make any sense for the section view, and also to show you the back half of the hula hoops, making it a little bit more difficult to rotate things. So I feel like this hula hoop and triad setup is a lot more intuitive, a lot easier to get the selections that you want. Okay. All right, let's go back over to our slideshow presentation. Okay, so the next section we're going to talk about is sketching. Okay, so in the past, we could directly edit items in our sketch using automatic relationships and also creating quick relationships with our control key, right? Also, we've had this really awesome ability to create offset entities within the tool forever, and it's a great time saver. In the past, we've also been able to create evenly spaced segments. This came out actually in 2015, breaking up even segments. And you're going to see how they improve upon that in 2016. And finally over here, convert entities. I mean, this tool has been around since 1998. It's a really great way to quickly select items and to trace and project them onto an existing sketch plane. Let's see how 2016 has improved upon this as well. So what I'm going to do now is I would like to bring up another one of my part files here. Just bear with me for one moment. All right. So I have this valve assembly that I have in here, and what I would really like to do is just concentrate on the outer housing because I want to edit the sketch that's involved in the creation of this item. For this, I'm going to edit the sketch and take a closer look at it. All right. Now, one of the things that has always been kind of a pet peeve of mine is that if we ever wanted to create a midpoint relationship within our sketch, we would have to either grab our centerline tool or some other sketch tool to kind of access that, or we'd have to right-click to get the midpoint of an item. That's no longer the case. In 2016, with the Select tool, you can immediately select midpoints of entities and immediately start creating your relationships that you want for it. It's really, really quick, really, really easy. Similarly, let me come over here. I would like to maybe apply some relationships to this line over here. If this line, for instance, was not originally horizontal like you see here, I can just click on this line segment, choose to make it horizontal. Right? Notice that this dialog box stays persistent even after I select the horizontal relationship. That's because maybe I want to add another relationship or even apply another dimension to it directly. Okay? Speaking of adding dimensions to items directly, if I select two items like I do right now, I can pre-select the items I want to dimension and then apply a dimension after the fact, making it just adding a different workflow to how you're usually used to seeing things done in SolidWorks. Similarly, if you guys remember Instant 3D in SolidWorks, well, they've also included something called Instant 2D. The way Instant 2D works is that you can select an existing dimension, and you can even use these little blue pinballs here to drag the dimension along a scale to dynamically change the shape of your sketches. It's a really convenient and easy way of modifying your sketch entities. Okay, let me go ahead and exit out of my sketch. I'm going to use that nifty G key to confirm my way out of my finished sketch here. Okay. Next thing I might want to do is take a look at this offset entity that we've created on top of my sketch here. I'm just going to go ahead and choose to edit this sketch. Now, in the past, we've had the ability to create offset entities, but a limitation that we've had with the tool in the past is that once you create the offset entity, there's no way to change it back. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this offset entities relationship in my sketch here, and you'll notice that there is now the new ability to come in and to reverse the direction of an offset dimension. Okay, so you can just toggle that back and forth to your heart's content, and it goes right into place. Very cool. If we were taking a closer look at this sketch as you saw before,
E-Man, we can't hear you. There we go. Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Okay.
Was there something bad that was happening?
Yeah, I think somehow you muted yourself, but now we can hear you. You're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, goodness. I just showed so many great things.
I love it.
Oh, goodness.
Know, right?
Okay. Okay.
It was only for maybe about 30 seconds, so you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, well, so people could hear the first part.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, that was odd. Okay, so next thing I might want to try doing here is taking a look at this is actually an enhancement they've made to a new feature. This is new in SolidWorks 2015. Let me come in and create a hole wizard hole on this face here. Okay, and I want to grab like a countersink maybe. Make it about 5 millimeters, and I want to position it onto this face. Now, I know that everybody on this webinar will remember this awesome enhancement from 2015, the ability to create segments. So this is a bolt circle that I just created here, and maybe I want to segment it using sketch points. So again, this is not new. All right, so I want to segment it up with 6 sketch points evenly spaced around the perimeter here, and I'm going to hit the green checkbox. Now, what is new in SolidWorks 2016 is that in the past, these points would be placed, and then basically there wouldn't be any relationships between them. So if I did something like delete this sketch point, notice that it now evenly redistributes those points across that arc. Pretty cool, all right? So if I need to come back in here, maybe apply a couple more dimensions, let me do that pre-select dimension option that I just showed you guys. All right, and what if we did need 6 back in here? Also new in SolidWorks 2016 is that you can go ahead, go into the particular item here, and choose to edit the segment points to include more entities. So it is now fully editable and reverse compatible to what you had before. You don't have to recreate those entities as you did in the past. So in this case, let's just make these vertical to each other, and those should all be fully defined. Beautiful. Okay. Something I also kind of noticed, this is a small enhancement with the whole wizard tool while we're talking about it. Notice I just picked an M5 countersink hole. If I switch over to the counterboard now, notice that it maintains the size of the previous type. In past versions of SolidWorks, if you switched the hole type, it would go to the last type of hole that you created, so or the last size that type used. That's no longer the case. So depending on the direction that you go here, it will try to maintain the settings across the different types. Okay. All right, maybe one last little thing here that I think is really awesome. Let me go back over to my part, and what I would like to do is I actually like to build up a gasket on here. I've already got a part started. I'm just going to choose to edit this part, start a new sketch here, and maybe I'm going to convert this face. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on Convert Entities first, highlight this face, and I'm going to choose Select Inner Loops as well. So this is a new enhancement in 2016, the ability to actually, okay, I'm sorry, I built that completely wrong. Let's try that again. I'm going to come back in here. I want the gasket part. I do want to edit the gasket itself. And I'm going to start up a new sketch in here. I'm not going to edit a sketch. So in this case, what we're going to do is I'm going to click on Convert Entities, and I'm going to select this face. Now, we've always had the ability to convert the edges, the outer edges of a face, but now we have the ability to select inner loops at the same time. This is the new enhancement in 2016. So when I go ahead and follow that operation, I can get the outer loops and the inner loops to quickly create the parts that I'm looking for here. So here I've got a quick gasket I've created. there you go. There's some enhancements for SolidWorks 2016 on sketching. So just as a review here, you guys saw the cool Instant 2D where you can use the scales to change the size of your sketches just like you can with Instant 3D. You can reverse the directions of offsets now. You no longer have to delete those entities and recreate the offset entities. Also showed you that the segment tool is now fully editable. You can add instances, take them away, and it'll still maintain the spacing for circular entities. Also, the Convert Entities tool has this new option to select inner loops. So not only will you get the outer edges, but you can also get the inner edges when you convert entities. All very cool enhancements for 2016. Okay. So let's take a couple of enhancements for sheet metal and weldments next. Okay, these are just a couple of minor enhancements that I think you guys will really enjoy. So let's take a look. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so just a couple of enhancements here on this part that I have of this this shield. Okay, this was actually created with a feature called a swept flange. A limitation that we had before with the swept flange tool is if you actually drilled holes into the swept flange, there wasn't a way to show a flattened version of this with the internal contours. You'll see now when I come in and attempt to flatten this that that limitation has now been lifted. So the swept flange can maintain internal contours within the flat and still give you the flat pattern for it. Very, very cool. Okay. Speaking of limitations that have been lifted, this is a limitation that I've long wanted within the tool. Let me switch over to back over to this part. And let's take a look at this bracket that we have over here. I'm going to go ahead and choose to open this bracket, and I might highlight another feature within SolidWorks. Besides being able to select this face, this part, and open it, now from the pull down here, you can actually choose which subassembly you want to open. So I want to open up this subassembly that's 2 layers deep, okay? Because I want to edit this part in context, and I want to create an edge flange, okay? This is one of our oldest sheet metal tools here, the edge flange. And one of the cool things about the edge flange is that you can, choose an angle for that edge flange, and you can also modify and edit how that profile looks within the tool. As an example here, maybe I want this thing to be more angled like so, and maybe I want it to be like parallel or coincident to an existing edge within this part. Okay. Now, what has always been kind of a issue with the edge flange tool is that we have always been able to make the flange smaller than the edge that's coming off of, but whenever we try to making it larger than the edge that it's coming off of, we would have to go in and create supplementary relief cuts in order to get this to work. That's no longer the case now. You can actually make the profile larger, and in doing so, you can get to your desired result much, much faster. Okay, so there you go. We've got our very cool looking part. Maybe I'll finish this off by just creating an extruded cut in the opposite direction. Okay. There you go. So some minor sheet metal enhancements in 2016. A few limitations have been lifted from the product. Okay. On the Wellman side of things, let's take a look at that. So for those of you who stay at bus stops, I made this model for you guys. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be putting in some Wellman profiles along this edge here. And let me switch over to my weldment tools, and I'm going to grab my Wellman profiles. So let me grab my structural members. One of the things you're going to notice that's new in SolidWorks 2016 is that the way that they organized and ordered the sizing of the Wellman profiles. It's no longer based on the strictly the number, but actually the size. So you're not going to see like 100 above 50 just because it has a 1 in front of it. So it's actually paying attention to the size that you're using. So the smaller items will be towards the top, and the larger items will be on the bottom. You'll also notice that items that you use frequently will be towards the top as well. So that's also nice. So let me grab this profile, and I want to apply one here. Okay, I want a new group. Notice when I pick a new group, this slowly expands. So again, we have less pull downs and sliders we have to go through to get to the selections we want. I'm going to create another group. Beautiful. And now we've got our different members in place. Awesome. Now, included with this, you may have noticed this little checkbox in here, transfer material, plain carbon steel from the profile. In other words, the profile that you select can now contain material properties, and those material properties can be transferred to the structural member that you're creating. So the profiles that you create not only have the geometric profiles, but can also store material information as well. Okay? So in this case, we are transferring the material property of plain carbon steel to each of those items, so we don't have to apply them again later. They also made a couple of enhancements to end caps. Nothing incredibly huge here. If I come over to this part and decide to put an end cap on this face, we've always had the ability to create inset end caps and even produce like an offset into the part. But what's new in SolidWorks 2016 is that all of those features are now accessible externally to the part. So as an example here, if I go back into my part and choose to double click on this, you notice that the thickness dimension, the offset dimension that's here, even on this curved entity, is available to me as a dimension. I don't have to edit these within the feature themselves. Okay. Now, if I'm going to be exporting this to another system, for instance, I need to export these out as individual parts, or I need to export this out as an assembly, and each of these have to be their own parts. That can be done easier than ever. If I go over to my cut list items in my cut list items list, we have the ability to insert this into a new part quickly and easily. Notice all those members are going to be removed, and we can move the properties that are in each of these entities over into the cut list properties of the new part or assembly quickly and easily. In the past, that wasn't necessarily the case, but now the new parts that are created from these cut list items will adopt the cut list properties from the original Weldment, which is very, very welcome. Okay? And they'll either show up as Weldment cut list items or custom properties. Okay? So just a couple of little enhancements dealing with sheet metal. Okay? All right. Well, let's talk about splines and surfaces. Okay. So for those of you who do a lot of work with consumer products and things of that nature, this is for you guys. Let's take a look at this jug. Okay. That was made in SolidWorks. Okay. And I'm just going to go back in time here. Now, SolidWorks has always had the ability to bring in sketches. And so, for instance, we've got this little sketch that's done over here. Okay, someone drew this up and brought it into the system, and we're going to go ahead and trace over it. The new addition in SolidWorks 2016, though, is that they've included new spline types within SolidWorks. So besides being able to come in and draw out just a regular spline that we're used to, there's a new spline type in town now. If I go ahead and click on my spline tool, we have the style spline. And what the style spline can do is it can actually create 3, 5, and 7 degree B-splines. Okay? So this is a much easier and cleaner way of creating the splines that we like within our system. What's also neat about this is that if you happen to create a B-spline using the or a spline using the traditional method, as we've done before, you can quickly convert items over into the new style splines type. And in doing so, you can see that we can come in and modify the geometry. For those who do a lot of consumer product design and work with complex curves, this is a welcome addition. They've been really looking forward to working with these 35 and 7-degree B-splines within their tools. Okay. Now, there is a few other features that we're going to be going through here. Namely, first of all, they've after we've created these different surfaces, we might have to come in and actually perform a trim on these different surfaces that we've created here. Okay, and for those of you who've done a lot of trimming before using the surfacing tool, that could be a little cumbersome, especially if you use a mutual trim. In this case, I want to create a mutual trim between these 4 different surface bodies here. And what I like to do is to remove certain items. Now, we have these new filters that are available within our system now, where if I come in, I want to say I want to keep certain selections. I want to keep this, okay? Notice as soon as I selected it, it hid it, okay? That's going to make it a lot easier for me to select other entities that I want as part of my trim, okay? So we have these new filters or preview options available for our trimming procedure. These trimming options are also available within the body trim tool as well. Let me go ahead and hit my green checkbox. I've got my nice resulting trim surface here. Okay. Along with that, after we create the trim surface, we may want to come in, knit them all together, and apply some different fillets along the part. One of the new fillet types that are available, or actually an old new fillet type that's available, is the ability to come in and create a curvature continuous fillet with just the edge fillet. In the past, this is only available with the face fillet option. But now you can have a curvature continuous fillet using just the edge fillet. You can also create a curvature continuous fillet with the variable radius fillet as well. Okay, so for those of you who are looking to get those nice smooth transitions at the tangency, this is a great tool for you to use. Okay. You can verify the tangency and how smooth those fillets are by inspecting the zebra stripes. So in this case, if I take a look at the zebra stripes, you can see that there is a tangential transition between these curvature continuous fillets and the rest of the body. Okay. Excellent. Now, finally, what I might do here is we've created this cool jug, but we might need to know what the volume of this jug is. If you've ever been in a situation like that, you notice there's a couple different techniques that you can use to accomplish that. In 2016, it's even easier because now we have the new function within the intersect tool. Okay? So the intersect tool can work like this. If you have a plane that represents the fill level of some jug that you're working with or some vessel that you're working with, you can select it. And then you just want to go over to your features and choose the new intersect option, right? I'm going to come in and intersect my part. Okay, and what it's done is it's created another volume. It's created another volume that represents the volume of the fluid that would be within this container. Now, in SolidWorks, we've had the ability to use the Tab key to hide parts within an assembly. Well, in SolidWorks 2016, you can now do that same function with bodies in a part. So by just hitting the Tab key, I can actually hide a body within a part file. Unfortunately, I just made a little mistake here. I'm going to go back, and I accidentally merged my results. I don't want to do that, because I want to be able to hide these individual bodies so we can just investigate the volume of fluid that we would need within our component here. Okay. So there's just a couple of enhancements related to splines and surfaces in SolidWorks 2016. Okay. And I just went through a bunch of these. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at some other feature and part enhancements in SolidWorks 2016. Or first, let's look at what we've had in the past. We've always been able to create sweeps. It's really nice. Sometimes it can be a little tedious, but it's sweeps have generally been able to be created pretty easily. Also, if you wanted to create helical threads, you did have the ability to create a helical curve, and you could sweep along that helical curve. Also in the past, in SolidWorks 2015, they introduced the variable pattern. Okay? And they've also included a number of enhancements to the costing tool. So let's go ahead and take a look at how they've made improvements in 2016 to these enhancements. Okay, so here I've got a path for a sweep, but I have no profile. In SolidWorks 2016, that doesn't matter. If I grab my Sweep Boss Base command, I now have the ability to automatically create circular profiles for my sweeps. So all I need to do is click on my path, specify the material thickness, or the diameter of the circle that I'm going to be working with, and just hit OK, and then you're done. Okay? No longer do you need to create the plane that's on the end of the path and drawing the circle on there and putting in the diameter. Now you can just avoid all those steps and immediately go to the sweep operation. This is also available in the cut sweep command as well. So think of this as an application. If you happen to have a sketch, like let's say like this, these lines represent the trajectory of holes that are going to be going through this part. If I click on this as a sweep path, I can choose a circular profile section for it, specify the diameter for it, and then just hit OK, right? But if I do this as a cut sweep instead, let me go swept cut, just go through the same operation for a circular cut. You can see now I can create holes very quickly and easily. In the past, if I were to do this, I would need to create a plane on the end of this line and then draw a circle in place. That's no longer needed. Very quick, very easy. Okay. Speaking of threads, as we did a little bit earlier, let's talk about some of the enhancements that have been made for threads. I think you guys are going to be pretty pleased. Let's take a look. All right, so I got this gearbox assembly here, and I would really like there to be threads along the top of this part. Now, I'm not talking about cosmetic threads. I'm actually talking about real threads along this part. They're still very resource intensive in 2016, but the ability to create threads has greatly been improved. We now have this new thread feature. Okay? And to put a thread feature in is as easy as putting in a cosmetic thread. It's going to pick an edge and where you want to start, choose where you want it to go up to, and then you're going to specify the type of screw that you're going to be putting into the system. In this case, we have a number of different profiles that we have access to. As an example, maybe I want to go to my metric tap, specify the size that I want listed in here. All right. Choose whether we're going to be cutting this thread or extruding the thread in the system. And then just letting it rip. Okay. Nope. It's 10 by 1. Yep, that's good. Select the face. Okay, And you give it a couple seconds here, and now you've got a nice helical thread cut within our part here. Very, very cool. Okay, and that is a real thread within our system, and it'll update parametrically when needed. What's also kind of cool about this is that, let's say that you'd have a non-standard thread. For instance, in this case, I've got this screw conveyor over here, and I want to add a custom profile in this case. Let me go ahead and grab my thread, specify where it's going to begin, where it's going to end, also choose my custom profile list. It's like selecting a Wellman profile. You're going to choose the size that you want. I want to pick the 110 shovel size over here. And let's make this 175, and let's start here. And let's work our way down to here. All right? So you just pick your thread profile that you want. In this case, I want this to be adding material. I don't want it to be cutting material away. Now we've got our nice screw conveyor. Go back over into my main assembly. See how that's going to look. Okay. So creating threads within your documents, easier than ever. Okay. Oh, actually, let's talk about one more thing with sweeps, so we're on the subject here. All right, so here I have a sweep. Here I have a profile here. And what I like to do is have it sweep in both. Well, one of the problems is my profile is in the middle of my path. But that limitation has actually been lifted in SolidWorks 2016. Let me choose to edit this part and grab my sweep command. Here's my profile in the middle of my path, and here's my path. Okay. Here you can see we have the option to go in one direction or go in both directions. You can even independently choose the type of twist control you want in either direction. So in this case, maybe I want to specify a twist value. I want it to be by revolutions. I want one full revolution going that way and one full revolution going that way. Okay. I hit OK. All right. And when I exit out of my part, let me use my cool D key with the green checkbox that I just showed you before. Create a nice little linear pattern of this. Right? No need to create extraneous planes to get the job done. We can immediately start creating the sweeps the way we'd like them. All right. All right, so we're getting close to the end of our hour here, and I've still got quite a few more things to show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump ahead to our assembly section. Okay. So I don't want to miss out on assemblies because I know that a lot of folks are really interested to see what's new in SolidWorks 2016 dealing with assemblies. Okay, so many of you guys might be familiar with this model from the 2015 rollout of SolidWorks. And the big enhancement for 2015, I think, was the Profile Center Mate. In 2016, they've included the Profile Center Mate to the Quick Access Toolbar. So you no longer have to go into the Advanced Mate section of the Mate environment to access this command. You have access to the ability to rotate the Profile Center Mate as you like it, choose the offset distance that you want with the Profile Center Mate, and even to lock rotation with the Profile Center Mate. Very beautiful. Same thing here. Let me go ahead and put a Profile Center Mate between these two features. Again, using one mate to mate all of those items into place. But it doesn't end there. As an example, if I select 3 faces with the Profile Center Mate, notice that the Symmetry Mate has now been added to the Quick Mates within the assembly environment. If you pick 4 faces, the Width Mate has been added to the Quick Mates in SolidWorks 2016. All these items that are in this assembly here have been mated together. And what I'd like to do is just to highlight all of these and to copy and paste them. Control-C, Control-V. New in SolidWorks 2016, if you happen to copy and paste components that are mated together, it will maintain those mates between those components within the copy. Let's go ahead and quickly mate this into place using the Quick Makes function that I mentioned earlier. Let me select this face here, and also these faces here. Notice the width mate is immediately available. A couple other enhancements that they've made to the system is the ability to access the lock, the temporary lock and group functions within 2016. In SolidWorks 2015, they added this enhancement, but the function was buried down within different tools, and it was difficult to access. Now you can get it by just right-clicking. In this example here, you can see how much this thing can articulate. These things can turn, this thing can rotate, this thing can move around. So getting the exact position of the item can be very, very difficult. If I right-click on the background here, I can choose to temporary fix and group. And in doing so, a handy dialog box will appear. You get to choose which items you'd like to fix, like in this case, this piece here, and what items you'd like to temporarily group. Once you've done this, while this dialog box is still open, you'll notice that I'm not able to move this part, and these items are grouped together. Once I exit and close out of this environment, though, it's right back to being the way that it was. Okay, so again, the way to access those temporary fix and group options is through the right mouse button menu. Now let's take a look at some completely different enhancements in SolidWorks 2016. Here I've got an assembly, and what I like to do is to mate these components into place. One thing I'm going to do here is grab the mate tool and go into the mate environment. You'll notice that when you make a selection while you're using the mate environment, the first selection will go transparent. That can be really helpful if you're trying to create a mate between two components that are and one happens to be obscuring the other. So in this case, let me go ahead and mate those into place. Okay. Uh-oh, can't seem to access that part anymore. No problem. Because I can hide the first component that I select, I can select right through it. Okay. Not exactly what I'm looking for. I actually want it to mate to that face there. Great. Okay. Also, you'll notice that on the open dialog box in the assembly environment, let me come in and insert a component. You now have the ability, when you open up and bring a component in, like this bearing, for instance, you can choose which configuration you want to bring right from the pull down. Very, very easy. Also, when I'm going to go ahead and mate these components in place, I'm going to come in and choose to select the subassembly that we're working with here. And in doing so, from my Quick Access toolbar, I can choose the component preview window. What this allows me to do is to create selections in a separate window while I'm working with an assembly. As an example, I can use it in the mating environment. Let me go ahead, jump into my mate environment over here, and again, let me go ahead and select my subassembly, add my quick mates over here, and I'd really like to mate these components into place. So instead of making the selection from this area here, I can make the selection from my preview area. So as an example, maybe I want this face here to be concentric to this. And similarly, maybe I would really like it if this face right here was actually mated to this face over here. Notice that anything that I select here will be applied to the component here in the main list. Beautiful. Okay. Once you're done using the preview over here, you just hit Exit Preview, and you're right back into your assembly again. All right. So there are some cool enhancements in the assembly environment, and there's much, much more. Unfortunately, we are running low on time, so I just have to kind of jump through a number of these things. I do want to take a look at drawings very, very quickly at the end here. And if we are whetting your appetite and you do want to know more about this, definitely be on the lookout for future webinars on these different subjects. and also keep a lookout for what's new events that might still be in your area. All right, so the last area we're going to take a look at is in drawings. All right, so I got this nice little drawing that was created here, and something they've added that's new is something called a flag bank. Whenever you create a list of annotations like this, you have the ability now to come in and create something called a flag bank. Okay, so for instance, this number 2 item here, I would like to add this, add a border to it. Let's make it like a triangle, and I want to add it to my flag bank. Okay. That way, later on, if I need to add a note to my document, as an example, if I grab my balloon here and drag and drop a balloon onto this part like so, I have the option not only to refer back to my bill of materials here, but I can refer directly to a flag bank that I'm working with. So in this case, maybe I want it to refer back to item number 2. Similarly, if you have items are referring to a certain type of flag in the flag bank and you modify it, like for instance, I no longer want this to be a box, I want it to be a square circle, you'll notice that every place that is referring to that noted item will also be updated in the list. Okay? Actually, let me save some memory here and close up a few of my files. All right. Another thing I want to show here is that, let me do that again. So let me add this to my flag bank. And let me add a note over here related to the flag bank. This is going to relate back to flag bank number 2. Okay. Now let's talk about ballooning, or specifically stacked balloons. In the past, we did have the ability to take items off of this or re-add items to the balloon, but in my opinion, it was still a little too cumbersome. But they've improved upon that in SolidWorks 2016. Can you imagine what key you have to hold down to shift balloons within a stacked balloon set? If you guessed shift, you were correct. If you hold down the shift key, you can now take any ballooned item and reorder them dynamically on a stacked balloon list. You even have the ability to right-click and to sort the stack numerically if you'd like automatically. Now, by holding down Shift, you can even drag and drop items directly into the stacked balloon or drag them out of the balloon if you'd like, if you want the individual item to be seen. Very, very cool. This is a minor enhancement to some, but a huge enhancement to others. I would like to actually add a parametric note related to the manufacturing description of not this nut, but of the subassembly that that nut is a part of. Okay, this is something that you were not able to do before, but new in SolidWorks 2016, it is now available. So now what we can do here, I want to make it a selection to the component in my drawing view, and now I have the ability to come in and select not the part, but the subassembly that part belongs to, and gain access to the custom property information related to it. Okay? And that was a very, very big deal. Now, maybe the biggest enhancement from last year's release, the 2015 release, was the ability to create zonal annotations. But to actually create the borders and the zones on a drawing was actually a little cumbersome and a little bit difficult. New in SolidWorks 2016, they've made quite a couple of enhancements in regards to this. First thing I would like to mention is that the scale of your document can actually be changed now to the lower right-hand corner, similar to your units. For instance, I want to make this half scale, I can immediately go to the half scale option. You also have the ability to go to your sheet properties immediately from that pull down and specify the type of scale that you want within your document. If you want to modify the type of borders and zones that you have within your document, that is no longer a manual process. As an example, let me come over here and edit my sheet format. I'm also going to bring up my layers over here because what I want to do is I would like to hide all my layers that I'm working with, namely my title block layer. Okay? Because what I want to do is to turn this into the normal dumb borders that we've had in the past and turn them into new smart borders. So the way that this works is you're going to use this friendly automatic border wizard. Okay? Well, first thing we need to do is delete the old stuff. So I'm going to delete the old border. Next. And then it's going to create this new intelligent border for me. Ooh. Pick the number of columns and rows that you want within your document. And you can also come in and specify the line font and the size of all your indices within your document. Okay. And once you've done so, I'm just going to go ahead and hit my green checkbox. And now you've got your cool border. Okay. One of the last things that you can do over here is to create something called a margin mask. This can be really helpful if you need to hide annotations of where you're going to have title block border information. As an example, I'm going to come in and maybe obscure the annotations for these items here. When I hit my green checkbox, notice it's going to exclude those. And the only reason I wanted to do that is because I know that my title block, my title block information has border information that would probably obscure the zone annotations. Okay. Once I'm done, I'm going to exit out of my sheet format here. Now I've got intelligent borders ready and available to me. If I happen to want to put in a location label onto a document, notice it's picking up the zonal information of the parent view, and vice versa, I can come in, put one in there as well. Right? As I move these around, notice that the zonal information is automatically updated. Very, very cool. Okay, so those are just a couple of enhancements dealing with drawings in SolidWorks 2016. And I think I'm just a little bit over time, but that concludes my presentation on what's new in SolidWorks 2016.
All right, thanks, Eman. That was fabulous. We have a couple of questions here. The first one from Rob says, the coloration of icons in the feature tree is important to visually see if it's been hidden or suppressed. How does that work in 2016?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So you'll notice that if an item is suppressed now, it will basically still make it grayed out, okay, as opposed to being, so it's going to be gray and white instead of black and white. So that's the new difference there. Yep. Also in the assembly environment, let me do this. Let me go back and open up an assembly. Same thing is true with suppressed components. You'll notice that they'll get gray, like this one here. I suppress this, it'll get grayed out. But hidden components, if you hide something, so let's hide this one. You'll notice that it will have a little slash in it indicating that it is hidden. Okay. So those are some things that you might have to get used to while working with the new user interface, kind of reinterpreting these new icons and this iconography in the feature manager tree. But quite frankly, it took me about 24 hours before I even, I was pretty much used to it. So. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, Rob has one more question. He's asking, can you dimension the points on style spines?
Can you dimension the points on a style spline? Yes, you can. So those points on the very end, you can dimension not only the points, but also the lines themselves.
All right. Robert wants to say thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yes, you are very lucky to have Eman today. He is very well versed in everything SolidWorks. So whatever questions you have, now is the time to get them answered, definitely. Wait here a little bit longer, see if any more questions come in.
I might have put them to sleep, Dana.
Oh, come on! You're fabulous. I like your hula hoop thing. You and I should have a hula hoop contest.
I think you would automatically win.
Yep, I win. Woohoo! And also, I found the trim surface tool. That was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, the new trim surface tool is very cool.
Right?
In the past, that was a little difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it that way before, and I thought, whoa, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Raymond has a question. He's wondering, are there any improvements in the toolbox items?
Yes, there are. There are actually quite a number of enhancements in the toolbox items that I didn't go over just because of time. You do have the ability now to group select the same or multiple toolbox items and to change the type of toolbox item that they are. So for instance, if you had like 10 different bolts or screws and they were all too short, you could select all of them and then specify a length that you wanted all of them to be at once. You don't have to do it one at a time anymore. Also on top of that, if you wanted to change out the type of fastener that you want, you can group select a bunch of toolbox components and choose the type or change out the type that way. So those are just a couple of enhancements for toolbox just off the top of my head.
Nice. All right, Raymond's saying thanks. That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions out there? And just remember, this is being recorded, so if you need to go back and look at it again, you can always go to our website, and also it will be emailed to you. And then every Wednesday this month, we are having a new webinar on what's new for 2016. So check those out as well. You can go to our website and see. Oh, Eric's wondering, is there any way to switch back to color icons?
No, unfortunately, this is the direction they're going. So if you want colored icons, you might, dare I say, you might need to stay on 2015. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the direction the beast of SolidWorks is headed. So there isn't necessarily a way of doing it. I think you might be able to hack the interface. If you can find the folder that contains the actual vector-based images, you could probably put your own images in there, but that sounds like a lot more work than it'd probably be worth doing. So, yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's kind of funny because I thought originally there would be a lot more people upset by the new user interface after the 2007 to 2008 interface change, but this time around it's been pretty good. Like the majority of the folks that I've shown the new user interface to do like it. So,
except for Eric, he wants all the colors.
He wants all the colors back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you,
sorry,
Eric. I like color.
I mean, you could still make the background colored,
Oh, there you go. Hey,
as
long as you can have a little bit of color in there, that's all good.
Ooh, okay. But yeah, I know. But people like colors on their icons. Yeah.
Oh, see, Eric's saying that works. See? Ooh, all right, we got it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I was just talking about the icons. The icons are monochromatic now, so.
All right, any other questions out there? Everybody's being shy, or you just wowed them? All right, well, it doesn't look like there are any other questions. I just want to thank you for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.